Oh no!
Howdy ho, gamers. Originally, my video was gonna be on the first Fatal Fury game and my retrospective on it and my thoughts and feelings and opinions on it and all these cool little details and storylines that I liked about it. But I woke up this morning to work on that video, and that drive is now dead. Yeah, that's tens of hours of work that's stuck inside a little metal box that I'll never see again. And unfortunately, all that exists of the project is this 3-minute, low-quality export test footage that I exported for my friends so I could get some constructive criticism. Hooray. Now, normally most people would just scrap the video idea, or YouTube in general, considering it's your first video still and you had nothing to lose. But I don't want to do either. I also don't want to remake tens of hours of footage and tens of hours in fucking Premiere. So I'm still going to show the test footage because frankly it's something I worked on and I think it'd be a waste to just throw it away and pretend it doesn't exist. And moving forward, it's just going to be a standard gameplay of Fatal Fury. I may pause here and there just to talk about cool little details and things I liked about the game, especially that was written in my script. But hopefully you'll kind of get an idea of what I was going for in my edited videos. And if you stick around, I hope to make other videos in that same kind of caliber instead of just me sitting in front of a camera and playing through Fatal Fury. Anyways, without further ado, my first YouTube video. Fighting games are sick. My original plan for this video was to make a brief history about fighting games and what I liked about them. But halfway through writing, I realized my writing skill sucks ass, and it sounds a lot like rambling. So instead of subjecting the audience to 2 hours of, well, an amateur's first writing essay, we're still gonna ramble, we're still gonna have a script, it's still gonna have some sort of structure, I hope, but at least we're gonna do it one game at a time. Now, as much as I'm itching to get into this retrospective, I know you're asking, who am I? Hey there, my name is Jason, also known as Paku Paku Desu. I'm a current competitive esports player for the Virginia Majin Bots at Ultimate Endgamers League. You may recognize me from certain world events, such as... My background in competitive gaming started out with fighting games. Even as a kid, I absolutely loved fighting games. The idea was very simple. It's you versus one single other player. It was great. There was no other team members to worry about. Yet. There was no complex rule sets or mechanics to worry about. Yet. Don't worry, we'll fucking get there one day. The concept, so simple, even a 5-year-old could understand it. And 5-year-old Paku understood it just fine. You know, you've got Street Fighter, there's Tekken, King of Fighters is on there. The motherfucking Capcom versus series. And from then on, I was obsessed. I mean, I couldn't get enough. And that love for the genre led me to compete in local tournaments and events like I do now. Alright, so that's enough of the background. We all set? Cool? Cool. And I wanted to start this series of retrospectives with the game that, well, started it all for me. The one that got me into fighting games to begin with. You've already read the title, so I'm sure you know. It's the best one. Garo Densetsu, also known as Fatal Fury here in the West, would release the 25th of November 1991 in Japanese arcades. Fatal Fury's main designer, Takashi Nishiyama, was actually one of the main forces behind the original Street Fighter, though he would leave Capcom shortly after to help SNK develop Neo Geo. It's partially thanks to his influence that Fatal Fury and Neo Geo as a whole would enjoy lasting appeal, staying relevant even today. So Fatal Fury's got an uphill battle. Not only at the time is the market saturated with a lot of popular arcade games, a couple months prior to that, there's a little game that came out, you may have heard of it or something, it had a little bit of a following. That game was Street Fighter 2. So Fatal Fury wants to stand out from the crowd. It has to convince the average consumer that we're different than Street Fighter 2. We're not the same. But how does it do that? Well, that's pretty simple. Just put a lot of emphasis into the story. A lot of games at the time were about a high score or just finishing a level. It's pretty rare that you would see a game with any story. That just wasn't necessary. As long as you had the high score to brag to your friends about, that's all that really matters. That's all that kept you playing. And while yes, Fatal Fury does have a tournament structure, that's not the whole point. Yeah, there's a cash prize at the end, but that's not why we're on this journey. We're not seeking fame. We're not seeking power. We're seeking revenge. We're seeking redemption. It's the story on how three best friends beat up a businessman weeaboo. Our story begins in 1982 with Geese Howard, CEO of Howard Connections by day, underground kingpin by night, murdering his training partner and rival, Jeff Bogard. What Geese didn't know was that Jeff had adopted two boys off the streets, Terry and Andy, who, upon learning about their father's death, seek revenge against his killer. 10 years have passed. Geese now holds a tournament called the King of Fighters. Terry and Andy reunite and befriend a Muay Thai champion named Joe Higashi, who is entering in the tournament to prove himself as a worthy martial artist. Together, the three set off on a quest to rid Southtown of Geese's evil.
So that was certainly a video. Once again, I apologize for the lackluster quality, but it was definitely not something meant to be a final thing, but I'm glad at least something of the project survived, even if it's in just this little form. I ended up finding an extra 30 seconds in the Discord that I had sent it to, so there's a little bit of a bonus there. But moving forward, I do want to get started with this. Fatal Fury. So, Fatal Fury is pretty big for SNK. You know, they're coming off the heels of Street Fighter 1, right after Street Fighter 2, so you know they've got big shoes to fill. And one of the first things that you see as far as the arcade mode is this demonstration slash track mode. And it does a really good job of showing you what's in this game. Things like the side switching, for example, that you see right there, how Raiden will jump into the background and Joe will follow him. And that system was pretty new at the time. You could say that Fatal Fury was one of the first 3D fighters in that sense. They called it the 2-lane system, and they would expand on that in later games. You know, Fatal Fury 3 would have 3 lanes, sometimes 1-lane death matches. It was great. It was kind of a way to say, you know, we're similar to Street Fighter, but we're also different. We want to do something a little bit in our own way. And part of that also was their controls. For example, in this little how to play, it would show you that this game only uses 3 buttons, a far cry from the 6 buttons that Street Fighter 2 uses, or those pressure pads from Street Fighter 1, which were not the best. Pausing here, you can see there are 3 main protagonists. There's obviously Terry Bogard, which is SNK's poster child at this point. You know, this guy has been everywhere where SNK goes. Even if there is a whiff of a fight, he is there. And this is right after the announcement of him being in Street Fighter 6 now, which I am highly excited for. And with him is his younger brother, Andy, who is pretty different than Terry in most aspects. While Terry's more loud, brash, and abrasive, and he uses a lot more street fighting tactics, Andy is quite the opposite. He's more reserved, he's pretty strict on his training, and he also focuses on the Jitsu, which we learned later in the series he had departed from Southtown to go and learn. Not to say that Terry doesn't have a formal teaching. He actually learned from Tung Fu Roo, which we learned in the prequel comic, and also later in the series. Terry takes that teaching and mixes it with his own form of street smarts to make something unique. And last but not least, we have Joe Higashi, a world Muay Thai champion who, in all actuality, doesn't really have a link to this plot. Sure, he's there to prove himself as a fighter, but his ties to Geese are none. He actually befriends the Bogarts at the beginning of the tournament, and after talking to them, he actually agrees to go and help them on their quest. But on this gameplay, we're actually just going to play Terry, make it very vanilla, and we're going to give a good first impression of the game. And I want to pause here one more time because I do want to talk a little bit about this screen in particular. And it's something that's been stuck in my head and I thought was a neat idea. I doubt this is any of their intention as far as the developers, but I thought it was pretty cool, and I kind of wanted to share it. So, taking a look here, you're given the option of your first opponent, and nowhere else in the game are you given an option like this. And in fact, this choice right here is pretty non-committal. It doesn't matter who you pick, you're still going to end up fighting everybody anyways. But a lot of what Fatal Fury wanted to do is tell more of a story. This is their way of competing with Street Fighter, was focus less on the fighting, focus less on the combos, and focus more about telling a story through its gameplay. And this is one way that, well, I like to think that it does it. Depending on which opponent you pick, you can put a little bit of implied context on why you're starting there. What do I mean by that? Well, if you start with Richard, you can imply that your protagonist started at the local cafe. Really, it's kind of like a bar, but they call it a cafe. Just to get more information on what's going around the town and the people in it. If you're gonna look for information, the local cafe is gonna have it. But once you arrive and you start asking some questions, you're met with some hostility from the owner, and you have to fight your way to get out of there. Now, if you start with either Duck King or Michael Max, you can imply that your protagonist started hitting the streets, taking out these lower level thugs in order to get more information on the guys up higher on the ladder, and eventually Geese. And the last option we're given is Tung Fu Roo, who, like I said before, has trained Terry Bogard, but also trained Jeff, Andy, and Geese Howard. So you can look at this option as one last sparring session with your master in order to prove that you're good enough to go on this journey. However, this option really only works with either Terry or Andy, since they actually have a connection with Tung Fu Roo. Joe, that's where this little theory starts to fall apart a bit. My point being is that even though this choice here is pretty inconsequential, it has that little bit of detail and storytelling where the player can take that information and create their own unique narrative from it. Me personally, I think it's something that's neat to think about. It may not be what they had intended as far as this choice, but again, it's just the little things that I very much appreciate in games like these. But moving on, I always pick Michael Max first. Don't ask me why, but always as a kid, I picked him first, so he is going down first.
Michael Max.
So, Michael Max, he is the boxer character of this game, and I feel like every fighting game at the time needed its own boxing character. It's just kind of a product of its time, unfortunately. But this guy, he's not too unique. Obviously, he has punches for days. Also, on top of that, he can throw tornadoes like you've been seeing here. This character is not very popular, I'm afraid. He's made only one appearance, and that being this one. He has made a couple of other appearances in other games, such as an SNK card game, I believe, and also the SNK Gacha game, the KOF All-Stars, if I'm not mistaken. There's like 3 of them out there. Hey there, editing Jason here. Michael Max actually does not show up in any of the card games. I looked through all of them, and not sure about the Gacha one. I didn't see him in my research, and I don't want to play it to find out. He's actually only had a couple of passing mentions in a bunch of spin-off games, and as a background element in King of Fighters 15. Yeah, that's the extent of his legacy. But he hasn't really made a return, which is, I feel like, is a shame, really. Because, yeah, he's generic boxer man, but he does throw tornadoes, and I'm sure if SNK kept him around, he could have been more like Balrog, where they flesh him out and, give him a little bit more character. But I do see, having 2 characters that throw tornadoes, him and Joe, they're obviously going to keep Joe above him, and I could see that happening for sure. Pausing here. Throughout the gameplay, you'll see these little cutscenes, which is just a picture of Geese, and over time, you will see that he will get progressively more and more angry. This is SNK's way of, again, making more of a story and less of a game. They want this to be an experience. They don't want you to just rush to the end, put your initials in, and call it a day. They want you to follow through because, well, you gotta see how this ends. And it's a great way to keep the player invested and actually like whatever the product is. The first step to making a good story, at least in my opinion, is to make a very charismatic and likable villain. And while Geese isn't necessarily likable, he's definitely very charismatic, and he's also very interesting in the sense that you want to see how his story unfolds, just like everybody else's. Alrighty, moving on. So, the next opponent is Duck King, and if I may pause for like 2 seconds just to make a plea with SNK. SNK, if you're watching, and I know you are, please bring back Duck King for Garo 2. Please, I beg you, please. This is like one of my favorite characters in all of Fatal Fury. I love Duck King. Please bring him back. Alright, enough of that. Duck King. In his first appearance, he's definitely more of just a punk thug character. Nothing really special about him. Obviously, he does a lot of slides and sonic balls, but he doesn't seem, too out there. It's definitely, at least for the time, is something that you would have seen. Take things like, even Street Fighter 1, they had a character that was pretty similar in aesthetic to him. Games like Final Fight would have characters like him. Very much that whole mohawk, again, punk aesthetic. But later in the series, we learned that Duck King isn't necessarily a bad guy. He's quite the opposite, really. He's just a dude who likes to fight and enjoys a good challenge. Even later befriending, I believe after this game or the second, he would befriend Terry and help him a little bit on his quest, even being featured in the Fatal Fury team in King of Fighters 11, if I remember correctly. That was definitely a strange game where the Fatal Fury team was Terry, Duck, and Blue Mary, of all people. Hey there, editing Jason again. Blue Mary was actually not part of the Fatal Fury team for King of Fighters 11. It's actually Kim. I should know that. I play Kim in almost every KOF game. So, I'm a fake fan, I guess. No Andy, no Joe. They're just not there. But, part of my love for Duck King is what comes later. His later appearances where you'll see that he is pretty much a nice guy. He's not, again, he's not a bad guy. And he also has this cool aesthetic of being this, like, always in rhythm, always hopping, always dancing kind of dude. Very much a party animal. And he also has a tiny little chicken as his mascot named Pio-chan, if I'm remembering that name. Editor, if it's not that name, please put in the real name. Again, that just kind of adds to his charm. I lost there. But it adds to the coolness of this character, which I find really cool. Right there, you see, he says, "I could fight you while dancing, dude." Even in this game, he still has that swagger to him. I don't know, man. He's just really fucking cool. That's the only thing I can say. And I hope he gets more representation in games that aren't Fatal Fury. As in King of Fighters, I feel like he fit perfectly in 15, especially with all the characters that are coming out now. They did announce more DLC, which me in my head, this is June 20th of 2024, so way to date this video, but they had just announced that they're doing more DLC, which is probably something Street Fighter related, since Street Fighter had just announced Terry for Smash. I'm sorry, for Street Fighter 6. So it's probably a collaboration of some sort, but they've been releasing single characters, and I wish Duck King was one of them. That would be really cool. That was a really quick finish too. But that's Duck King, man. He's great. I love him. Bonus area. And this is another cool thing. Very small thing, but every fighting game has to have, at least at the time, has to have its own bonus game. This one being an arm wrestle with a lot of bootleg wrestlers, or wrestler lookalikes. Excuse me. This is another cool thing that SNK did, was these little, after, I believe it was every 2 fights, it would show you how to do these special moves. Some arcades would have it on the marquee itself, all these movesets, but this one just showed you a little bit, and it also, again, adds to that incentive of, you know, moving forward. And then, of course, our next fight is up against Tung Fu Rue, which I have a lot to say about this one. So I'm going to pause for just a second here, just so I can talk my talk. Now, taking a look at this fight, it's not much. I mean, it's you versus a frail old man. This is free eats, basically, which is what most people say, you know, especially playing this game for the first time. You really got to put it in perspective of that first-time player. But that happens. So you see now that he is powered up, basically. He's grown to at least twice his own size. He's actually bigger than you at this point. And he becomes a lot bigger of a threat. As you can see here, he has all this mobility. He has fireballs for days. And it's really just like, especially if you're first time playing this game, you're just gonna, that's gonna happen basically. You're just gonna underestimate it. And that's not where the cool stuff ends. I actually wanted to point to round 2 specifically as well, and round 3 going in. I'm glad I lost that first one, that I can tell this a little bit of, I guess, information. So round 2 has started, and obviously you see here that it started to rain. This, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, but this is the only time in this game that it'll do something like this. I don't believe there's any other fights that have any on-screen weather effects or things that fly in the middle of the screen. And the reason why this is so cool to me is because if you take a look at it, I'm going to unpause it for just a little bit. If you take a look at it, it's very, very distracting. I mean, you have all these white lines that are moving down. The background is pretty bright, at least for the rain. I'm going to pause it again right there. You can see how it's pretty distracting. Now, you got to put that with the information that this guy is going to grow twice his size. He is going to become more of a threat. And now you can't see half the screen. You have this big white nothing in front of your screen, which, cool aesthetic, but at the same time, it's blocking your vision. And because of that, you're going to play a lot more defensively. You're going to take less chances. You're not going to make the first move because you don't know what's going to come next. First, it's this bait and switch of a character. Next thing, it's the rain covering half the screen. Who knows what else is coming? And that's what I think is so great about this game, is that these two little details, well, I guess not so little as far as Tung Fu Rue, but the rain plus the added bait and switch of the character makes you completely switch up your gameplay style, especially if you're a first-time player. And something like that to drive that little bit of fear into you is what I think is so great, and it really helps that storytelling aspect that this game is going for. Alrighty, let me restart the round real quick just to kind of start over and go from there. The good news about, you know, this game in particular is every character's AI is pretty unique. In the sense that, like, they all have their own little ticks as far as what they do. Tung Fu, you'll see that he does a lot of this lane switching, which it tends to be his downfall a lot, because if he's in a different lane than you, he will hop to you 8 times out of 10 or something. And you could just punch him out of the air, he'll go back into his opposite lane, and then you can just keep punishing him like that for the entire round. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. And then the third round, which has something a little bit unique about it as well, or I guess just a little tidbit. I'm going to pause right there for a second. It still continues to rain, but the background's a lot darker, so the rain isn't as bad. It's not white on a bright background, it's now white on a dark background, which is a lot more visible to the player. And this shift in time of day kind of helps set the tone of how you should be feeling as a player. Round 1, obviously, you get baited by this old man growing to twice his size. And then round 2, you've got that bright background. But if you get through that and you get to round 3, it's going to be a lot easier for you. I already know what to expect. The game's not going to throw me any more curveballs. At this point, I've learned all of its tricks. It's just me against Tung Fu at this point. And that is just a great way to make a connection between the player and the game. Even if it's not what's intended by the developers, it's still that just the fact that I can have that kind of idea and that kind of feeling really says something special about the game. Alright, final round. And it's just like, again, like it's these little cheese strats that you can do, such as like these jump-ins, these or whatever. It's not the sign of great programming, I'm sure. It's something about like just the infancy of the fighting game genre and where it started. That stuff like this exists, and this is how we played. Is, I don't know. It's just, I love it, man. It brings a tear to my eye, I guess. And next fight is Richard Meyer. This fight is nothing too unique. He does have the spinning kicks. He can get on the ceiling just like that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I think Richard is tied, not tied maybe. He's down there with Michael Max as being one of the easier fights. He's just you could definitely catch him out of air a lot. But Richard Meyer as a character has had a small position within SNK. I mean, he's definitely been in the background a lot for King of Fighters. I think a lot more than Michael Max. Obviously, as the owner of the Pow Pow Cafe, which has been a staple location throughout most of Fatal Fury and also a few of the King of Fighters games, Richard has unfortunately not shown up in too many of them, which I think, again, is a shame, because Capoeira is one of those fighting styles that, has a lot of potential to it. Take like Eddie Gordo from Tekken, insert more Capoeira fighters here, but that's my point, you know what I mean? Like, I need to see more than just Eddie Gordo from Tekken, and I think Richard would fit that. He has the appeal as far as being an original. So I think SNK could do a lot with him. I know they've had a couple of other characters in later Fatal Fury games that had his fighting style, but I don't know, man. Just bring it back, I guess, is all I'm saying. Hua Jai. This character is very interesting. He is definitely the closest to a clone character in this game, where he is a Muay Thai champion, just like Joe, and actually fought him for the title. And I'm sitting here yapping, and I did want to talk about this one little cool thing that just happened, and I'm sure you saw it. But let me wait for round 2. We'll talk about it then. Alrighty, so round 2 is starting. Just like the first, we're going to drop him down to a 3rd health, and something interesting is going to happen about right here. So, in this scenario right here, Hua Jai is a very interesting character. Let's start there. He's a Muay Thai champion, like I said, on basically rivals with Joe, but as you can see here, he's kind of a cheater. And you can see that he does that right in front of us, where he takes his bottle of mysterious liquid and drinks it and becomes red. With that, he also gains a speed boost, he gains a lot more damage, and he has access to more moves. Standard stuff in fighting games, obviously you have some sort of power-up kind of character. But where this one is a little bit unique is in the fact of the audience. You can see here that there is an audience member who looks a little bit out of place, right? Everybody looks like a tourist or some sort of guy on the street. This is a guy in a suit who comes by from behind the crowd to the front in order to throw Hua Jai his bottle. This is the first instance of Geese rigging the competition in his own favor. He's taken no more chances. You've already beaten 4 of his guys, and now he's on to the 5th. Muay Thai champion himself, but he's already getting beat. So he's gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that you go away. And this says something about Hua Jai as a character as well. Previously, he's been a Muay Thai champion himself, But you can see how open he is about cheating. I'm sure he's not like this in every fight that he's in, but seeing that this is a fight he's about to lose and he has no more options, he's going to do whatever it takes to protect his reputation. It's these little details that blink and you miss them, but man, once you start to think about it, it just forms this whole narrative, and it makes the game feel more alive than it in all actuality is. All right, enough of that. So we're just going to camp him real quick. Never mind. The move can just not come out, I guess. Special moves, man, I need to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. But that's Squajai. Pretty easy. Once he gets his buff, he's already almost at like half health. So it just takes a couple more hits to take him down.
Versus Raiden.
And our next opponent is Raiden. Big mass wrestler type dude who has a bit of just dirty wrestling to him, which you can see there. He does a lot of spitting, which, if you know anything about professional wrestling, is pretty taboo to do so. It's seen as a dirty tactic. He does a lot of grabs like that, where he just grabs you with one hand and manhandles you. Definitely not worried about any health or safety of his opponent, which in this scenario you wouldn't be, but it kind of, again, speaks to how he would be in the ring. The cool thing, again, about this character, and there's a cool thing about almost all of them, is this would not be the last we would see of Raiden. You would think that, he's like a Michael Max kind of character where you see him once, he has the gimmick of being a wrestler and that's it. But we actually do see Raiden quite a few more times. In the next game, I believe he turns heel. It's either Fatal Fury 2 or Fatal Fury 3, but he kind of renews himself, where he goes from becoming Raiden and he says, you know what, I don't want to play the heel anymore, I'm going to change my stage name, and he actually becomes Big Bear, unmasks himself, and becomes more of a respectable wrestler, and I think that's really interesting. Now, later in the series, he would actually go back to being Raiden, and I'm sure there's reasons for that. He's probably paid him the big bucks or something. I have to read up back on the lore, but it's just, again, it's these little things that you would never think about, like Raiden coming back, or I guess what would become of him. How do they fit him back into the story? How do they, make this guy work? And, everybody is dynamic. Everybody has their own little arcs they're going through. Everybody grows, and I think that's just great. They don't have all these characters that they just forget about. Such as like games like Mortal Kombat, where they'll have 60 plus characters, but either everybody shows up for one game and they're done, or they'll show up in multiple games but have almost nothing to do with the overarching plot, where that'll only revolve around 3 or 4 characters. So just having something like this just makes the world feel like it's constantly happening, even outside of the bubble of Terry and his friends. Oh boy. That grab is honestly really cool. Pause right there. I'm sure I can, editor, you got that. You could show that throw again. But yeah, the way that he just kind of rolls past you, grabs you from behind, and just flips you forward is so creative, man. It just really uses his size as a way to make a moveset for him, and I think that's just great. I'm sure there might be like a wrestling move that's like slightly based off it, right? And I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, so I don't know, but man, that's such a cool idea. I'm sure he has it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just mixing my games up. Wow, that was a lot of damage in 3 hits. That was a lot of damage in 4 hits. Yeah, this one is, see, I said it wasn't one of the harder fights, but yeah, here I am, being a fraud again. Wow, that's it. That is no end lag. There we go. That move almost never hits. It's just almost all vertical. It has like no horizontal whatsoever, so it's really hard. Unless you're in the corner and they jump in on you, that's not gonna hit. But that's Raiden. Raiden is done. But final round, it's Billy. And then I'm going to pause one more time to talk about this fight. It took me a second to pause there. So taking a look at this fight specifically, it helps contextualize why you couldn't just go towards Geese right from the beginning. This is Billy Khan. He is Geese's right-hand man, and he's guarding this bridge. The only way to get to Geese Tower is through this bridge. And the only way he's going to let you is if you beat him in a fight. How do you challenge into a fight? Well, you gotta win the tournament first, or at least get up to the finals of the tournament. So there's a story reason, and there's also an actual in-universe logical reason of why you can't just beeline to Geese. You know, hey, don't need to do the tournament. I know where Geese is out. I'm just gonna go knock on his door. Billy's not gonna let that happen. So not only do you have Billy physically blocking the bridge, but you also have this row of spectators and cars that are blocking it as well, who I'm sure paid a lot of money to be here for the final round of the tournament. And they're not going to let you just push past and skip the whole thing. It's this great piece of, I guess, world building that helps really solidify that this is a tournament, and you have to go through the motions of said tournament. Returning back into this fight, I'm sure I'm going to pause it again. There you go. So, that right there, I paused it just a second too late, but you saw it for a second. The cool thing about this is that Billy is, again, Geese's right-hand man, right? Big, tough dude. He's got a staff. He's got this overbearing presence. He screams final boss, and if you didn't know any better, you would think that he is the final boss. But you can see in that moment where he threw his staff at you and you lost it, he completely turtles up. He gets scared, he gets completely weak-kneed, and he gets very, I guess, not confident at all as far as facing you on an actual fist-to-fist fight. And that kind of paints the picture of him being maybe not as cold-blooded as he appears to be. Later in the series, you actually see that he has a younger sister who he cares for very, very deeply, and it really gives him this kind of criminal with a heart of gold character, even though he's a lot more criminal than gold. But it's just that, little connection that humanizes him. Again, you barely know him. If you're playing this in the arcade, you barely know him other than how he looks and his name. But you can tell so much from his character just based on his actions and how he does things. And then this is off screen, but there is also, as you can see him reaching for it, and you'll see as soon as I unpause it, there is also, just like in the Hua Jai fight, a man in a suit tossing him another staff, which is, again, great, because in any other fighting game, if there was a mechanic like this, he would just get another staff, right? Like from behind his back or off the ground that just happened to be there or something like that. But this gives an actual in-universe reason as to why he gets more staffs when he loses it. And it's just, again, it's just that little piece of storytelling that's just so great for this game. Alrighty, so I'm going to unpause this real quick, go back into the fight. You can see that it came out from off screen there. If he throws it again, I hope, yep, there you go. You can see that, yep, he's in the background right there, throws him another one, and it's just, again, I think it's so cool. Pretty hard fight, honestly, because the only time he is vulnerable, he doesn't take very much damage. So you really have to make him vulnerable, or you really have to just keep on the offensive. And that's really hard to do because he has all this mobility. He has these aerial options. He has that Pogo's jump that he can do. I guess the best thing you could do is try to camp out that staff reload. Didn't work out there, unfortunately, but that's usually where you'll see the best chance to attack him, really. We're going to try that again. But this is definitely one of the harder fights, I would say, in the series, or in this game specifically. I am dreading the next fight that comes, for I'm sure most people know. See, that guy, he took like a hot minute to get him the staff, and that really did not come into his favor. But that's Billy. Billy is now done. Now it's on to the champion. This is Geese Howard, the ruler over Southtown, the murderer of your father, and the final boss of this game. There is a lot, I mean a lot to say about Geese Howard, but this is his first appearance, and frankly, you could see where he grows as a character from here. Obviously, taking a look at him, he's gone under a bit of a, transformation himself, even within this game. Every other cutscene you see him, he's sitting down, he's in a business suit, he's barking orders, right? You would never think, you're just thinking, hey, this is just another business guy who's got a lot of money to throw his goons at, the main protagonist, and that's it. You foiled my plans, cursed you, I'll see you next Saturday. Super villain type shit. But in that final cutscene, you see that he's changed completely. He's put on his own gi, and he says, you know what? I'm going to face you. I'm going to fight you one-on-one. And you as a player, again, you just saw this dude. He's a businessman with his suit, sitting down, barking orders at everybody. You think he is light. Let me tell you, he is anything but light. SNK would go on to be pretty infamous for its final bosses. It really all started with this guy here. Geese would have an answer for everything that you throw at him. Whether it be from long range, he's going to out-projectile you. Whether you be in close range, he's going to grab you and just do half your health and damage. There's no getting around this guy. He is the real deal. And frankly, this is probably his most tame appearance, where later in the series, he would have more moves, he'd be a lot faster, he'd do more damage, he'd have better AI, so he was a lot more of a threat, a lot more versatile. In this game, he has really two main moves, and if you know what you're doing, you can get past it pretty quickly and pretty easily. But as a first-time player, dude, you are going to dump quarters into this machine. But I'm going to attempt to talk a little bit about Geese and play at the same time. It's not going to go very well, but I'm going to attempt to do so anyway. There you can see his first move is the Reppuken. It doesn't, literally. He will throw 2 or 3 at him at a time. And then there's this other move is the predictable counter move there. So he could just grab you out of the air, he can grab you mid-attack and just slam you to the ground. He's a threat, man. He really is. It doesn't get easier from here. So we're gonna just start again. Just get immediately countered. That's nice. Geese is very hard to predict in this game. Again, he'll do a lot of damage. He'll spam a lot of projectiles like that. He's a very intimidating character. It feels like despair when you fight him. And I mean that in the sense of you can throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. And like I said, he has an answer. Again, he has an answer for everything that you do. A lot of his telltale is when he just stands there and does nothing, and I didn't pick up on that just now. But he will counter you. Any move that you throw at him, he's going to counter you, unless it's a projectile, which I think he's just going to block. It feels very despairing knowing that, hey, I have so many things I can throw at this guy, and nothing is working. And it only takes him a couple of moves to shoot even the playing field. See, like right there, I spent a lot of time trying to get damage. I got a lot of hits on him, but in like 3 hits, he deletes me as well. It's very humbling in that sense, I guess I could say. But it doesn't feel unfair in the sense of, you can beat him if you like. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, if you know how you're doing. Obviously, you want to beat him, but if you know what you're doing, you know what to do. And I always love round 3 because it goes dark. There's the thunder and lightning in the background, which is, oh man, as an aesthetic choice, it's so good. Especially against a final boss on this high rise here. So I'm very close to winning, and I'm probably going to lose. Oh! He backdashed. And, chip damage will also kill. And then, of course, you always got to love that. He just kicks you out of the window if you lose, which is just a little bit of extra salt. Because every other fight, it's just, man, I'm beat up. It is what it is. Like, I'm going to go home and train up, and one day I'm gonna come back and it'll be fine. But no. Geese does not give you that option. He's absolutely making sure that you're leaving, like you're leaving this planet. Oh boy. I didn't even press the button, I don't think. Or maybe it just came out really late, but I thought I had already aerialed. I didn't know you could do 2. Hold on, let me test that out. This is unscripted, or not that this is it. No, you can't. I wonder what he grabbed. Whoa. Editor, replay that. That was weird. What did he grab? He didn't grab an attack. I was already done. I'm gonna show you something that the government doesn't want you to know about. And it's gonna be real cool. It's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna be the 100% way to beat Geese every single time. Every single time. You just need to get 1 hit. And as long as you can do that, and your inputs are correct, you can win against Geese every time. Don't do that. Don't do that though. Don't do that. This is the method. The method. You know those Wall Street guys? They're always talking about the method. This is the method. I just didn't. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. Somehow Terry Bogard just, I don't know, lands on his feet and he just runs up the building again to fight and rematch Geese. And Geese is willing to do it as many times as it takes. But as long as you get 1, you just back up. Oh, it didn't work. As long as you get some sort of down, just do this. Oh, or he could just backdash like that time. But we'll still get the W. I'm going to still attempt a tree strat. He's going to Reppuken immediately. Okay, he was about to counter me. I saw it. He stood still for like a split second. Shit damage is going to kill me. Yeah. No. Okay, so we're gonna do the fifth time playing him. I don't know. As long as we can get 1 knockdown, we have the cheese strat. I said him knockdown, not me. So this is like the 6th time I'm fighting him or something. Like as long as I can get a knockdown, I can cheese him, I think. Or I could just die. I could just die too. That's valid too. Oh, I could just get grabbed too. I could just get chip damage too. It's fine. I love chips. Oh, I want to be done. This is that despair I was talking. This is it right here. That right there. That's the despair. Despair is right here in this area. This game has some very interesting inputs too. It's very, you gotta be very deliberate with your special moves. I don't know, man. It's one of those things, like once you feel it, like you know exactly when you did and when you didn't do a special move. But sometimes it feels like it cheats a little bit. Like it feels like I should have gotten something. But SNK, this game was made in the 90s. I promise you, I know the cheese strat. I know it. This is round like 10 of fighting Geese. You know what? I guarantee you I put it on like the hardest setting. I probably didn't. I'm just coping now. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. It's fine. As long as we can get 1 knockdown. He keeps repeating again. I just don't listen. Oh, here we go. Nope. Never mind. No knockdown. I haven't grabbed like all game, but just because grabs are very hit and miss in this game, I'd rather not. Oh boy. Yep. Oh, 3rd one. Hello. Whoa! He just grabbed me out of it, dude. Oh no. I don't want to play anymore. I want to get off. I want to get off the ride. I want to get off Mr. Fatal Fury's ride. He's gonna fucking Reppuken again. He's not, apparently. Oh, the knockdown. Oh, I wasn't ready for it. Nice. There we go. Okay. I can just fail. He can just backdash, apparently. Okay, there we go. Round 1. We got him. Don't you worry. I was so close to hitting. Like a frame or two more. Aww. Okay, it's 1-1. It's 1-1. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just don't input. Ooh, there it is. I told you. I told you. Oh, he's gonna jump. He's gonna jump, and then I can counter. Yes. Yes. The cheese strat. Come on. Let's go! First try, baby! See, I told you, I know the tree strat. The cheese strat is there. And that's Fatal Fury. That's the game. Done for real this time. And then you get to enjoy this great cutscene of Terry committing murder. One little quick note there about that ending too is that it says there that Geese still lived for another 3 hours after falling, which is insane to me. That building has to be 20-30 stories up, and he fell down the entire thing, and he was still alive. Now, if you know anything about SNK or fighting games in general, you know the fact that he died is a load of shit. And that's Fatal Fury, man. There's a lot to love about this series and this game in general. One of the first, if not the first fighting game I've ever played, and it got me into the genre. I remember just being up late at night on my SNES and just playing this game over and over. I think maybe once I've gotten to Geese. I definitely never beat him though. But man, this game, it brings back a lot of memories, and they're good ones, and it really fueled my love for the genre, my love for fighting games, and my love for competition in general. I can honestly say I would not be here and doing what I do and creating what I do if it wasn't for this game in particular. It just holds that special place in my heart. Jesus Christ, 25 losses. I just saw that on Geese. But man, this is a game, and it's just different. It really is. There's nothing like it. There never has been anything like it, and I couldn't have picked a better game to start with than Fatal Fury 1. So that was the video. I just finished editing it just now. You don't have to watch this anymore if all you're interested in is in Fatal Fury. This is just for me to talk about my journey on editing this. It's going to be completely unscripted. It's going to leave all the ums and ahs more than what was already in the video. I promise I try to cut out a lot of those. But I thought it would be fun to just talk about the process. Like I said in the beginning, my what's it called? Oh, dang, man. My drive, it completely died on me, so I just had to start over, almost from scratch. A lot of what was saved, like I said, was those 4 minutes, and then the rest I had to kind of think on the fly. Obviously, I didn't want to re-record. It was literally like 10 hours of footage I would show you on my phone, but I'm using that to record right now. It was like 10 hours of footage, and then I had spent maybe 15-20 hours of it already editing, so I definitely didn't want to redo like 30 hours of work, but I hope it turned out fine. I'm pretty happy with what it was. Frankly, I think it was slightly a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Me talking like this in front of a camera, or at least just kind of re-saying a lot of the things I said before, at least in front of a green screen. I was able to kind of say it a little bit better. Part of what I want to get better at is using my words a little bit better. See, like right there, like I double up on words a lot. I will say but a lot. Sorry. But I do that a lot, unfortunately. And that too, unfortunately. A lot of these words I say a lot, and I've caught a lot of it while editing. So I'm sure with time I'm going to get better at it and kind of get those out of my vocabulary. Not necessarily like completely, but you know, like I'm going to get better. I'm going to use different words and go from there. I'm also going to have maybe a little bit of a better camera presence. That was really my first time really being in front of a camera and trying to act, and being in a room by yourself trying to do that, it's really hard because you have nothing to bounce off of. So I want to get better at that. But you know, let me know what you think. I thought it went well. I liked the edits that I made. I liked what became of this project, and I really hope to do more. I'm already writing the second one. I want to do definitely more fighting games. I plan to do games like, you know, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom is definitely what they're on the list. I really want to talk about that one day. Maybe do a little bit more research on the Tatsunoko side, because I'm just kind of now getting into all that stuff. I want to start talking about other stuff too. I don't want to just be fighting games, even though fighting games is my passion. I want to talk about other games. Things like, shoot, man, what's on my list? Metal Slug. I definitely want to talk about the Metal Slug series one day. I want to talk about Custom Robo for the GameCube, which was another game that was pretty influential when I was growing up. Other games that just, you know, out there that I don't hear people talk about very often. You know, I want to tell what my next video is going to be about, but I kind of want to keep it a surprise. Not that it's like a huge one, but it's definitely an arcade game that very few people have played, and at least from my research, there's only been a couple of people that actually really talk about it, and I think it's cool. I think it's a great game, and I want to shed more light on it, as to say. Not to say that this is gonna do gangbanger numbers or gangbuster numbers. Jesus Christ! See, that's the getting better at words thing that I'm talking about. But you know, I mean, hey man, if this gets like 100 views, dude, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna call that mission accomplished. Yeah, this is just is fun, man, and it's releasing myself out there for the first time, really, and it's a big one. It's a big one, and I'm sorry about the video length. It didn't mean to be 50 minutes. Originally, I had it edited, or my original edit green screen thing was supposed to be like 20 minutes long, like total. But it ended up being like 55 because of how much I wanted to yap and talk about Fatal Fury. But I think it came out pretty interesting. I think it came out entertaining enough, or maybe I'm just losing my head editing by myself in this room all day. I don't know, man. That's all I gotta say. I want to get better at it. I want to get better at being in front of a camera. I want to get better at editing. It's gonna be great. I hope you'll join me on this journey while I get better at words and stuff. If you want to leave a comment and say what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, make fun of me for my hair, make fun of me for my voice, or praise me. Dude, I'm down for either. I'll read all of them, even negative ones, especially if you're constructive criticism, because my whole goal is to get better, and that's definitely what I want to do. Yeah, that's all I got, man. Thanks.